on today. We ask you, God, that you will anoint us on today, do what you have called and assigned our hands to do. Father, we thank you, God, for the information that you have downloaded in them, that they may be able to download it in us. We thank you because our ears, hearts, and minds are open to receive what you have to say on today. Now anoint them as they come through these airways, as we listen to the information that they give, so that we may become better citizens in our community. And we thank you and we give you praise. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen and amen. And we say a pleasant good morning to you.
Good morning, Bishop. How are you?
Morning, Bishop.
Good morning. Good morning. Just now on the air.
All right. Thank you, Bishop. I appreciate that. And make sure you all listen to the Bishop every day from 6 to 10 as he brings you the best in gospel music. And good morning. Every morning we rise is a great day to be alive. And welcome to the Seven Cities Forums of Hampton Roads presents Portsmouth Coffee Talk. And good morning, host Leah.
Good morning, James. How are you, Colonel? And
yes, good morning,
Cletus Kassady.
Good morning. How are you?
Wonderful.
Right.
You know, all our guests are special, but Cletus is surely our special guest this morning. And well, one thing, Leah, did you have a nice Mother's Day yesterday?
I had a wonderful Mother's Day, and I wish happy belated Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. I got plenty of rest for a change.
Well, thank you. We're glad for that, you know, because, you know, we didn't want you falling asleep this morning. But before we get started, let's give our coffee talk salute.
How can you fall asleep with Cletus on board?
No, that won't happen this morning.
I didn't know we had to have a cup.
Yeah.
Got a measuring cup. You're starting off wrong, Cletus. You're starting off.
I had.
Well, of course, our guest this morning, and welcome to all our WGPL 1350 AM listeners. And there you go. And our Facebook Live watchers this morning. Thank you for joining us and supporting us. And of course, our special guest is Cletus Kassady. And before we get into it with Cletus and find out what makes him tick, and for those that are hard to hear, I didn't say he had ticks. I said what makes him ticks. So we don't want you to get that mixed up, because that could sort of ruin his opportunities for stand-up jobs, you know, if they think he has ticks.
Maybe popular in the dog and cat community, though.
On top of it, but I just wanted to clear that up. We want to see what makes him tick. He doesn't have ticks. But anyway, before we get into that, we want to, Leah, what we do here on Portsmouth Coffee Talk is honor Portsmouth citizens that are doing amazing things out there that don't always get recognized, sort of unsung heroes. So Leah, if you would.
Okay, good morning. It gives me great pleasure this morning to highlight one of our very own, Dr. LaFrance Rogers Rose. Dr. Rose was born in Norfolk, Virginia, but she grew up in Portsmouth. She's a graduate of IC Norcom High School in the class of 1954, and she graduated from Morgan State University with honors, majoring in sociology, anthropology, and history. The young Dr. Martin Luther King was the commencement speaker. 2 years later, Dr. Rogers Rose received a Master's of Arts degree from Fisk University in sociology and anthropology, where she was an active participant in the 1960 historical Fisk student movement in Nashville. At Fisk were students who would become the core of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which is SNCC. She was friends with Marion Barry, who was the president of the Fisk students, and she was vice president. Dr. Rogers Rose was also friends with James Bevel, who became the leading theoretician to Dr. Martin Luther King and Bernard Lafayette. The young Dr. John Lewis attended a planning meeting at her house. Dr. Rogers Rose was at the first March on Washington in 1963. Dr. Rose went on to get a PhD in sociology from the University of Iowa in 1964 and was voted the best graduate student that year. And she was the first and only Black faculty member at Olaf College in Northfield, Minnesota. Dr. Rose is one of the leading African-American centered scholars in the country. She has lectured extensively throughout the United States on topics dealing with Black history and culture, the Black woman, Black family, Black identity, youth motivation, rites of passage, parenting skills, and a variety of other topics. She's the editor of acclaimed volumes, The Black Woman. Dr. Rose is co-author with her late brother, Dr. James T. Rogers, of Struggles for Resolving Conflict in Black Male and Female Relationships, as well as many other books. She is the founding member and past national president of the Association of Black Sociologists, past national president of the Association of Social and Behavioral Health Scientists. She is founder and CEO of the International Black Women's Conference. Dr. Rogers Rose has been honored by the National Association of Black Elected Legislative Women and with their highest award, the Noble Woman International Leadership Award in 2000. She received the Founder Award from the Association of Black Sociologists in 2004. She was honored by the Governor of New Jersey, the General Assembly, and the cities of Newark, East Orange, Trenton, and Camden for her community service. She is a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority and Iota Phi Lambda business sorority. In 1993, she was given the honor and installed as Nana Oba Pension Akosa Asantewa Ofosu I of Abari, Ghana. In 2002, Dr. Rogers Rose was given a precious gift and a new lease on life when she received a heart transplant. She continues her mission in serving God, her community, and seeks to right the scales of justice. This morning, we are so happy to salute none other than our very own Dr. LaFrance Rogers Rose on Coffee Talk this morning.
Well, thank you. See, that's why we do this. So who knew that she had done so much? And
yes,
I have to applaud you. If you hadn't gone to Africa several times, no way you would have gotten through those last names. That you
my goodness. Those kind of names, you know.
We still don't know if you pronounced them right, but that's neither here or there. So
And one other thing before Cletus gets started, because we do not want to interrupt him once he's on a roll, okay? I did promise that I would mention the Greyhound Walk Around for Scholars, which would take place this Saturday on the IC Norcom grounds. The registration starts, stop shaking your head. Registration starts at 9 a.m. to 10:30. This is a great time for us to come together. We haven't been able to have a grand reunion. Sign up, register, go to the site, register, so that you can participate in this great walk around. The music by DJ Big Clean of Too Big Entertainment. And we're just gonna have a good time as we get our healthy walk on, and just a time for Greyhounds to come together and socialize. So go to my page if you need to look to see where you need to register, or to Samara Montgomery's page, my teacher, and register for the Great Greyhound Walk Around. All of that's out the way. Now it's time for fun. Okay.
Yeah, let me say this too. You come out even if you have to crawl around. I mean, some
that's right.
crawling.
Or if you got your wheelchair, we'll roll you around.
Whatever it takes. It might take you a little longer if you have to crawl around, but just come out and support the mighty Greyhounds. And I like to say one thing about Dr. LaFrance is at the end, you said she was a heart transplant recipient. She was one of the ones that encouraged me. That's how I met her, actually. She came to the hospital when I was preparing for my heart and wondering, should I do this? And she was already 13 years out with her heart. So that was kind of encouraging to know that, once I received my heart, it was hope. She already had hers for 13 years.
Yes.
And the technology wasn't as great when she got hers.
Exactly.
She didn't have the opportunity to have a LVAD like I did. She had to stay in the hospital until that heart came. So we appreciate her. But anyway, we have Cletus here. He attended Woodrow Wilson High School.
Both of them.
Both of them. Both of them, Manor and Wilson?
I started at the old Wilson on Willett Hall. Then I went to Manor. and man, I turned to Wilson while I was there.
Yeah, and I was one of my first questions was gonna be, how did you start in comedy? And I see you have a note, at least 4 to 5 years you were at Wilson, you the class clown. So
six of my high school years, all 3 senior years actually. So it was really exciting. I just believe once you find a grade you like, just stick with it, man. And yeah. So it was cool, man. Junior year, senior year, good years. Junior year is the best. You still get to go to the prom. There's no class dues. So junior year is really the one that you want to settle into. Senior year, man, people start expecting stuff from you.
Yeah, they what you gonna do in life or something like that. You also attended Norfolk State University, and
Yep.
We have to talk about this. You majored in physical education.
I did. Don't let my fat taste fool you, man. Back then, both of us could have been considered slim. So when I went to school, when I started college, true story, my mom was really sick when I was supposed to have first gone to college. So I ended up not going. Ended up not going immediately after high school. Most people just, immediately, pretty much a few months later, you're going to high school. So it actually took me, I think, a couple of years. Yeah, 2 years out before I went to college. And I was working a couple of jobs. And so at that point in time, I was working down, I was doing security, believe it or not. I slept through it though. I was doing security down at the marina. At the time, the Holiday Inn was still open. So right next to the Holiday Inn in downtown Portsmouth, there's a marina. I was doing security down there. And, you just have one of those moments where you start thinking. So I was like, man, look, am I finna do this for the rest of my life, or I'm gonna go ahead and go to college? Because my family was big on college. My mom was, aunts, uncles. So that day when I got off work, that next morning when I got off work, I made a decision that I was going to go to college. And so I was like, I'm gonna drive up and down. I still had some good connections with the guidance counselor at school, and they had a program called Access when I was in school at that time, and they would give you fee waivers for the application fees for college. So the probably wasn't supposed to, but she gave me some fee waivers, and I drove up and down the East Coast from Maryland down to North Carolina, and I stopped at all the HBCUs and dropped off applications. And I was like, whoever takes me in first, that's where I'm going. And so I got the acceptance letter first from Norfolk State. So I was like, well, there it is. So I went there.
There it is.
You couldn't make a better decision.
Yeah, no, it was great. Actually, it is firmly what has gotten me to where I am now, in more ways than one. So I'm really excited about it. When it was time for me to do a major, I was like, well, what job can I do where I don't have to work that hard? My mom wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer, but I thought back on my life, and I realized PE teachers really don't do a whole lot of work, man. I ain't never really seen no PE teacher stressed, and you get your summers off, and you get to make kids run laps. So that was my goal. I was like, man, that's it for me. PE it is.
I have to applaud you for having a double major at Norfolk State, because I see where you also majored in student union. So,
man, shucks, I got a master's in student union.
The union killed most of us, believe me.
Listen, and it wasn't even to the point where it is now. Like if you go to Norfolk State now and you see the luxurious student union they have now with all kinds of restaurant options. All we had was the grill with chicken and fries. We had the game room, and that was it. Like it wasn't anything that was extensive. We had a small card room. I remember you would put your name on the list to play hearts, and the card room, hearts or spades, put your name on the list and go to class and come back, and your name still hasn't gotten called yet. So it was great. The student union building, I met so many people at Norfolk State in the student union building that never attended Norfolk State. They were there in the student union building every day. That
was everywhere. So, I mean, but how did you talked about being the class clown, but were you always funny? Because a lot of people think they're funny. I think I'm funny, but it takes a real talent to do stand-up. And people think they can do stand-up until they try to do it, because you have to provide your own material until you get up to Eddie Murphy status, so you can buy material. But in the beginning, you have to come up with your own material about your life and things like that. So everybody can't do that. That's a special skill. So when did that start? Did that start in high school? because a lot of people are class clowns because they didn't study the day before, so they interrupt the class.
If you ask my mom would tell you that I've been a comedian since I was born. Professionally, so true story, professionally, the very first time I ever did comedy, I was 18 years old. I was getting ready to go to the prom. I was going to Norcom's prom, matter of fact, because a young lady went to Norcom. I'm outside. I had my own car at the time. I'm outside washing my car, and I hear a ad for a comedy contest at a club. And so this is crazy because I was like, man, I ain't never wanted to be a comedian. That's not something I wanted to do. But then they were like, it paid $500. And I was like, well, we're going to Kings of Million the next day. $500 at that time, I would have been like, boy, this is like 1996, 1994, 93, 94, somewhere in that area. I was like, dog, $500. I'm pretty much Jay-Z at this point. So I went ahead and I went to the competition. I drove to the competition. It's the first time I'd ever done any comedy. It's also the first time I didn't get paid what was promised. I was underage, so they wouldn't let me in. They had me sit in the coat room until the comedy competition started. Herman Hurston was hosting. There were no other comics that showed up, so I was the only one that got on. I told a couple of jokes. I probably wasn't very good, but by process of elimination, I won. And the guy was like, well, so he was like, it paid $500, right? So I was like, dog, I'm ready to get my $500. And he's like, well, man, so as you can see, we didn't have any other people show up, man, so we can only give you 100. And I was like, word, this is the greatest day of my life. I was like, $100, because at the time, gas was like 90 cents a gallon. I was like, man, I'm balling on this 100. So that was the first time I ever did it. Never had any desire to do comedy. So I went to school, was going to be a PE major, and just my personality, me being who I am, I was the president of the student ambassadors when I was at Norfolk State. I would host a lot of different events for them. When the people came in to do tours of the school, I led the tours. I would give a presentation, man, and it was always funny. So people would ask me to do different things. And long story short, I was hosting something for Big Brothers Big Sisters on campus. It was a talent show. It was a young man by the name of Phil Thornton. Phil is now the executive producer of R&B Divas, a whole lot of different television shows. And Phil was like, hey man, you ever thought about doing radio? I was like, nah. He said, well, we're gonna flip the radio station, because at that time Norfolk State station WNSB was all jazz. And he's like, we're gonna try to make it a hip hop and R&B station. I was like, I'm in. And from that, things started snowballing. So I've always been a firm believer of like, when people say that God orders your steps, and he kind of decides what you're gonna do. You make plans, but God really knows what you're doing. I had never been in mass communications, never. You know what I'm saying? Like, we had a whole mass comm department, and they came and got a PE guy to be on a radio station. From that, I got a job at BET as a writer for a show called Cedar's World. And that lasted very, very short. I learned in entertainment, man, your jobs ain't gonna be that long. So I went and did that. And from that point on, I came home. I had been a writer for that show. I still hadn't really done stand-up comedy before. Then I had a young man by the name of Alan Ellis, and Alan was doing a gospel play, and the show was in North Carolina. He wanted somebody to open it. And a friend of mine was like, oh, Cletus can do it. And I was like, I don't know. And then they were like, it's paying. And I was like, well, let's go to North Carolina and get money. And that was pretty much the first time I done stand-up, and it's kind of rolled ever since.
One more question before I let the other hosts go in. And you're known as a clean comic. And, a lot of comics, as a part of their punchline, they use those profanity words as a part of the joke.
Right.
Even if the joke is not funny, throwing that word in there makes it funny. So it takes another effort in order to keep everything clean and still be funny. What made you decide to stay with the cleanness of your comedy?
My grandma.
Grandma's
I had one of those grandmamas that didn't play. So I just felt like it didn't matter how famous I was, how many millions of dollars I made. If my grandmama heard me cussing, she'd come on stage. And so I was like, nah, cause this ain't finna happen. And I'm not a cusser by nature. Some people are like, I've worked with a lot of the top comedians in the country. and that's part of their whole vocab. You know, when they get on stage, they're not transforming into somebody that cusses. They are a cusser, and so they get on stage and they just gonna continue to cuss.
Continue what they do anyway. Yeah.
Right, and so I'm not a cusser. So, man, you know, and I grew up in Portsmouth, and you know, there are times in my life where I have used words that may not be, you know, of the greatest. But nah, man, I am who I am. And so when I'm on stage, I speak about my life and my experiences. And my life and my experiences really didn't revolve around cussing. So I was like, let's make this work. And I've always been told that people cuss when they don't have the words to express what they're trying to say. So I have a good vocabulary, so I'm able to get around that.
Like preachers that lose their thought.
Listen, you do a lot of church comedy. How did you get into the church comedy?
Man, that right there was the hardest thing ever, because you know there's a lot of people that feel like ain't nothing funny in church, when actually church is probably one of the most hilarious places you'll ever go.
You're right about that.
So like I said, I started with that gospel play, and I think some people had saw that I was doing a gospel play, and they were like, well, let's see how we can bring you into church. And I did a couple of churches, and then it's kind of the word of mouth got around. And I like to talk to a lot of different people, Marcus Wiley, Jonathan Slocum, Small Fire, some of those people. And we really pioneered it for a lot of people, because there was I would go to places and they had never had comedy in their church. So the trustees were kind of holding the check. Like they're like, it's gonna go wrong. I know it's gonna go wrong. I can look at this young man and tell something's gonna happen. And so they would really be tight, like they didn't know. And so I would go in and do a good job. There was a lot of pressure for me to go in and do a good job, because if I didn't, nobody else would be able to come into the church and do them, because they were waiting for a reason to be like, no. And that's one of the problems I think that we have in the church. They're waiting to stay where they were. Nobody wants to advance any. Nobody wants to see that there's something different. And it's been like that for a long time. You remember when the church didn't have no instruments, because the drums were the devil. No drums in the church. That's the devil's instrument. And people are just waiting on those drums to go wrong. We don't just tap on the floor. We don't need no music. And everything has kind of, you have to evolve. They didn't want young preachers in there. They don't want no young preachers. We got to be old and been through something. You know, they didn't want women in there.
Yes.
So the church has been so hold backish for so long. And so when you have that pressure of having to go in and be right and do it the right way so that other people can come do it, it's rough. But that's what got me started in the churches.
Cletus.
Yes, sir.
For a young person coming up behind you, what would be your advice?
For as far as getting into comedy, or just anything?
One in comedy and in anything.
So with the comedy,
man, cover all young and old coming that way.
Yeah, anybody. I always say make it a decision, man. Make sure it's something that you want to do. If you don't have a passion for it, I say don't get involved in it. Otherwise, I always tell people no. I have people who come and ask me to mentor them, and I be like, "You sure this is what you want to do?" Because I'm gonna be hard, because I really care about comedy, the art, the craft, all of it. You know, I study it. I study comedians, the styles of comedy, all of that, and people don't even know that those are things. I say, look, find out what the structure of a joke is. People don't know that there are actual technical terms to how you structure a joke. There's a setup, the opening, there's the body of the joke, there's a closing, there's a punchline, there's something called callbacks. Learn those technical terms and what those things are, rules of three. Learn those, learn public speaking. So just like with any other thing that you're doing, be prepared to do it, be passionate about it, want to do it. Know that this job is a job of rejection. Yes. I get rejected way more than I get accepted. Way more. Entertainment in general. If you can't handle rejection, it's not something that you want to get into. So you can't let no be the final answer for you. One person's no is not what's gonna do it. You're gonna get 1,000 no's before that one person is like, yeah, I'll give you a shot. Let's ride. And then when you get your shot, you gotta ride with it. I think that happens a lot in life, period.
It does.
A lot of life, period. Don't be afraid to make your own lane. If enough people have told you no, you can be like, you know what, cool. Y'all not gonna accept me, but I know what I have. I'm gonna put it out there. So you learn that. Don't let the detractors get to you. 95% of the people out there support you. It's 5% that go the opposite way and want to bring you down. we by nature pay attention to that 5%. That 5% is what brings us down.
Yes.
We'll have a 95. If you get 100 people, or 95 people have been like, we love y'all show, we love everything you do. We'll skip all of that for those 5 people to be like, I don't even know why they come on in the morning. Don't nobody even drink coffee no more. It's not sponsored by Starbucks. And we will dwell on those 5.
Yeah.
More than we will hold on to the 95. So we got to learn, man, to do that. And so I tell people all of those things, man, when you're doing anything, don't be afraid to fail. Just keep pushing, man, and be passionate about what you're doing.
Now, Cletus, you're giving performances at the comedy club now. How are they receiving your clean comedy? Because most of the folks I've heard at the comedy club, and I see some of the acts, they're kind of raunchy. So how are they accepting your clean routine in a comedy club?
Funny is funny, whether you cuss or you don't cuss. As long as you're funny, I've done shows where people don't even notice I didn't cuss until the end. I have been very diligent in reminding people that I don't, because it opens up a lot of doors.
Right.
But I did Mike Epps. When I did a show with Mike Epps uses how other people use cuss words to pepper their sentences. He uses regular words to pepper in his cuss words. So I did the Mike Epps show. I'm clean before Mike. I'm just funny though. You know, if you can give people the situations and just be funny about it, that's all that really matters. The cussing, the people don't even notice. And not to take away from African American crowds, but we the only ones that feel like we need people to cuss at us.
Yes.
When I go do shows with my less melanated brothers, they ain't worried about you cussing. They don't. They just want to hear good comedy, good clean content. It's us that be like, man ain't cussing me out. I don't. And who wants that? Who wakes up and is like, man, come cuss me out, please?
How about that?
Yeah, and please, even though you don't use the cuss words, you do. Sometimes your subjects are kind of on the edge, and how does that translate? Sometimes I guess you have to figure out. You at the comedy club, and then you at the church, and where you draw the line on some of the things, because people see your Facebook presentation.
Facebook can go to the left a little bit. So
right, the last one you had that you started out with men wearing dresses.
Oh yeah, then it went way left after that.
They had about 500.
I don't even know how we got there. I was Deborah Cox. How did we get here? So, one of the things that I realized about the saints and the church, the church acts really holy, but they've seen every single movie that you think they ain't seen. Every movie with cussing in it, all of that, they've seen all of it. A lot of times when I do these shows with certain comedians, they're there too. The church is there. You just got to realize there's a time and place for everything. So when I start talking about some subjects, they have to be talked about, because we don't talk about them. The church fails in a lot of areas. The church really should be a place, a training ground for everything, like for everything. So you wonder why we have marriages that don't succeed. They don't talk about intimacy in marriage. They don't talk church. Like, you can shut a whole church down if you just yell out sex. They be, oh no, and they will be done. But there are still guidelines for it. There's ways to deal with the intimacy. There's ways to deal with marriage. Like, church will tell people to go get married, but don't even deal with the intimacy. What type of person are you? What type of person are you? You just put them out there. Just be like, hold on, wait till you're married. Just don't burn. And then you get in there and he be like, you don't know what to do. So I realized that even adult subjects, even sensitive subjects like that, if done in the right manner, don't necessarily have to come off as raunchy. You could talk about it. People might be like, oh my gosh, he's talking about this or that, or whatever. It's just the way that you do it. I definitely wouldn't go into a church setting, because I already know what that setting is. I grew up in that setting. So I definitely wouldn't go in a church setting and talk about some of the things I might talk about late night or in a club, even from an honesty perspective, just out of respect. But it can all be done.
Yeah, Colonel, we're approaching the part where we're going to have to leave the radio, WGPL 1350, but we're going to continue on Facebook Live. So everybody stay with us. And I just wanted to make that announcement so the bishop will come in and do his thing. But the Colonel usually has a little something he likes to say before we leave the air.
Yeah, I'd like to give a commercial break here and tell the listeners out there in Electron Land that if you like what you're seeing and if you'd like to see more of us, and so we can have an attempt at expanding our programs, you can send a donation or look at entering a partnership with us at Portsmouth Coffee Talk LLC, and you can send any, your notes to or remuneration, meaning money, to P.O. Box 7664, Portsmouth, Virginia 23707. And you can give us a shout out via our email. Tell us how we're doing and give us more what you want us to do at Portsmouth Coffee Talk at yahoo.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel. Again, thanks everybody for listening on WGPL 1350 AM. And remember to join us next Monday morning as we continue our Portsmouth Coffee Talk. So let's continue on Facebook Live. Leah, looks like your mouth is open. Looks like you.
Yeah, I know you're in the schools now, Cletus, and you're in the elementary school.
Yeah.
How do you use your comedy to work with those children in the school system?
So you have to have a sense of humor when you're dealing with kids, because you just realize that kids are hilarious. And I think that having that sense of humor, it gives you a different place for kids to meet you at. So often we see teachers who are such strong disciplinarians, such strong figures, that kids can't always be comfortable talking to them when they have a problem, when they have an issue, outside of what's regular schoolwork. So I think that because of, my personality and how, I interact with the kids, no matter what situation they're going through, they don't have a problem coming to me and be like, hey, this is what's going on. This is because, and it's like there are serious issues. Like people didn't understand. One of the hard points for me that I had to deal with even talking to people was when we first got into this panorama. How difficult it was to keep
Panorama,
the kids.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. So once we entered into this panini, when you had to keep kids at home, and people were like, "Oh, it's selfish to want the kids back in school." We're not thinking. So one of the real situations that we have in a situation like Portsmouth, where we are socioeconomically, we were having kids who were not eating. School was the place that they eat. If you're there on a daily basis, you realize that breakfast in the morning and that lunch may be the only hot meals those kids are going to get all day. Is that the fault of the school? No. But if you're there to be able to provide it for them, that was important. If you talk to mental health people, the mental health of kids suffered when they were taken away from the school environment. If you talk to police, social workers, many people were now put in a position where they were still with whoever their abusers were all day long.
Exactly.
Their attackers were there now.
Exactly.
And there was nobody there to be able to see what is happening. And now they've been put in that situation. Their stress level is through the roof. When they have somewhere that they can go, for a lot of people, man, those hours that they're at school for a lot of kids is the only safe time that they have. And so it's very difficult to not be able to be a person who they can come to and tell you, I didn't eat. And they know you're going to not judge them.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? We've given kids coats, man. One of the most touching times I've had in the school, man, we gave a kid a coat and the kid was like, I can have a coat. Like, and I'm thinking to myself, like, you think you only see that on television, but this kid was like, I can have my own coat. And he got it because he was in school. You know what I'm saying? So I just think, and knew I wasn't judging them, wasn't making them feel bad. We've had kids lose everything to a fire, and I went and bought the family, like, yo, let's go get clothes. Let's go get shoes. And I'm not even going to give you bottom of the line shoes. Let's go get Jordan, so that when you come back from the devastation of losing everything in a fire, you come back to school and you're flyer than you've ever been. You know what I'm saying? And it lets them know that there are people who care enough about them to put them back in a better position than they even were before. And sometimes just knowing that there's somebody that cares is all that kids need.
And Cletus, you do a lot of things in the community that you don't broadcast on Facebook and all the other things, but you are constantly involved in doing things for your fellow citizens. to make their life better. Now, I know you don't like to broadcast, but that portion of it, but share a little bit with us so we can get to know the real Cletus Kassady.
So throughout my so like community service wise, I think for the last 6 or 7 years, I've been on the superintendent's parent council to help determine what happens with the school system through the superintendents, and work with Title I, help them get some programs in. In fact, 2 or 3 years ago, they had elementary school. For the first time, the elementary schools had basketball teams. We tried to get Slim to come out and play so he could actually start, but he told us he was retired. So we put it in. We put that program in. Man, the kids had an amazing time. Parents had a good time.
Yes.
So that was a program that I myself and Ronnie Ratliff we came up with. Even to the point where trying to think of some stuff without sounding like I'm bragging. At one point in time, man, none of the schools had adequate playgrounds. And this will show you how long ago this was. Dr. Stuckwich was still the superintendent of schools. And I worried Dr. Stuckwich and board member Costello Williams so much about trying to get a playground for my daughter's school. She was at Victory Elementary at the time. That Dr. Stuckwich, when he was on his way out, he saw the status of that. He's like, man, I'll just give everybody a new playground. So all the schools ended up getting new playgrounds just because I was worrisome. We feed the homeless quite a bit. Last year I did a couple of times. I've done what was called my Cletus Claus, where in the Christmas season I give kids toys. That whole program started. Oddly enough, I was listening to a song by a rapper named Drake, and Drake has a line where he started talking about how guys are working to get their kids Christmas. They started in May to get their kids Christmas. And I was like, man, dads never get that. Nobody ever respects dads like that. Nobody knows the sacrifice that dad gets. Like yesterday was Mother's Day. It's a beautiful day. But watch how Father's Day kind of just slides by. Like nobody cares. And, everybody's like, man, you couldn't do it without mom. He'd be like, but dads, people like, you only get one mama. You only get one dad too. Like let's let dads get some joy. And I know how hard it is as a man, because a lot of times we got our pride. We don't want to ask people, no matter what our struggle is. Men will work themselves literally to death to do stuff. So I did a program where I was helping single dads with toys for Christmas.
Right.
And that just blossomed to a whole nother thing. This year, I had a young man who lost his mom Christmas time. So that was both his parents. He was 7 years old. He was in private school. So we ended up getting him a shopping spree in the mall where he could just get whatever he wanted. And then we paid the rest of his tuition at the private school he was at for the year. So just little teeny stuff, man, that I try to do to make my mark. I've coached a lot. It's been just a whole lot.
See, it's important that we get to know the whole man. I mean,
yeah, I'm large.
But we need to know who is this guy Cletus Kassady, because we hear a lot from you via Facebook and other sources, and you're kind of opinionated as well.
Yeah, and people hate me for it, and it's cool
okay.
though.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm one of the most hated. Like I like the line that Denzel Washington gives in Remember the Titans. He's like, look, they may think I'm a mean cuss, but I'm the same mean cuss to everybody. Right. So I try to treat everybody equally. And so when we start talking about politics, I don't have affiliations. I'm team this, I'm team that. That's one of the things I hate about politics, is that when we start treating politics like a team sport, nobody wins.
Right.
Nobody wins except for the two teams.
Exactly.
So for me, I can look back over my memories and things like that. I've always been consistent in like, let's do this, let's meet this. I don't matter who the mayor is. Kenny Wright is a good friend of mine. But if Kenny was wrong, I'd be like, hey, okay, this is wrong. We still good friends. I want team right to where Kenny can be like, the sun comes up at 9 p.m. No, that's wrong. That's not what happens. And so now I think the biggest problem that we have in Portsmouth is that we have so many people with personal agendas politically that do not mean people. They do not care about the people. It's what they can get, what's in it. Some of it legal, some of it illegal, So, hey, they got jail cells for everybody. But I just don't have it. I just want what's best for the city. and
Yeah.
the people in it.
You know, Cletus, comedy and politics has a long history, long history. And as we were talking about, Leah was talking about Dr. Rogers and SNCC. And then it made me think about probably, I think, the greatest motivational speech to high school kids or to kids was a speech by Martin Luther King, knowing your blueprint. What is your blueprint?
Mm-hmm.
And in that speech, he talked about in going to the Philadelphia forum there and talking about and seeing Nipsey Russell back in the day, who was one of the greatest comedians back in the day.
Pure
So,
entertainer. Yep.
yeah, pure entertainer. And it makes me think as we talk to you of how entertainers back in the day gave back in the community. As I'm thinking, you know, listening what you're doing. And so I like to thank you for doing that, to continue that legacy on.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Appreciate it.
will beg to differ for, yes, politics is a war between the right and wrong now, and it's also devolved into nationally those who don't believe in the Constitution, those who want to uphold our democracy. And so I just had to put that out there.
No, so I will definitely agree with you when you say that it's right and wrong is the war, and that should always be the fight. I believe that we should always fight for what's right,
Mm-hmm.
and against what's wrong. But too often now, because of political affiliation or whatever, people will ignore what's right and wrong.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And that's where I think the problem lies. When you're so tied on being a Democrat or being a Republican,
Mm-hmm.
being left wing, right wing, being independent, when you're so stuck on these are the quote unquote values of our particular party that we're going to ignore what's really right, that's where we have an issue.
Right.
Right.
Democrats aren't always right, Republicans aren't always wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Some things, if they would actually sit and listen to some of the tenets that they each bring and take the best of both, then we're winning. But when we stay so hard on I'm a Democrat,
Mm-hmm.
and fold your arms, the little rascals, that thing, we're not gonna win.
That's true.
We're not.
Mm-hmm.
And that type of thing trickles down to local politics, and local politics is even worse sometimes because you know everybody's jockeying for one thing or another, and the tension is on who's disagreeing with who,
Mm-hmm.
and in the background the schools might be suffering,
Mm-hmm.
or you know the attention where it should be is not there, and a lot of times when you make your commentaries, you add that little comedic touch, and I think it resonates better for those who understand what you're trying to do. It resonates a little better because it gives us a chance sometimes to laugh at ourselves, say, "Oh well, you know, he really hit it on target there." And that's kind of funny. But let me think about that. Maybe I need to change. And then you have some people that's not going to change. They're not going to take it, or it goes over their head. You know, your comedic presentation goes over their head.
It's gone a lot of ways. It's funny though, because I've been approached by and talked to, especially with locally, in politics. I mean, and I've done political talk all the way from being on Roland Martin's show, talking about stuff nationally, to just doing stuff here. Everybody here acts like they don't listen to me. They be like, man, I don't even listen to Cletus. But then they always know what I said.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I ain't listen to you, but you said. I'm like, how you know if you ain't listen? Like, either it got back to you one way or other, or you listen. And so I think that's what makes me kind of dangerous. It's not even a danger, but I think they respect it. They know my voice. So a lot of times, some politicians, a lot of them don't talk to me on purpose. But other ones locally talk to me, and they literally ask me, hey, what's your opinion on this? What's your thought on this? Or they'll come back to me and say, man, you said this, man. This is what I actually feel. And so I've always said this, I'm not too big to be wrong. If I've said something about people, or I've said something about a particular subject, for example, the current mayor, when he first got in, he pulled me to the side. He's like, hey, man, he didn't know who I was. We had never met personally. He said, man, you Cletus, aren't you? I was like, yeah. He said, man, you said some harsh stuff about me. I was like, so I was like, oh man, we getting ready, go into fisticuffs. But he was like, but everything you said was fair. He said, I understand. And he took that opportunity to kind of expose, kind of divulge what he was. Same thing like Leah just did with me, was like, hey, but here's who I really am. You see this part of me, here's another part. And I was like, oh, word, that works for me. So I think we need to look at it that way. Mr. Overton's he's talked to me about a lot of different stuff. We've been on things, the sportsplex, and we've talked about that for years. Because initially, Mr. Overton was like, we need to build this center, I believe, right there on the Noble Street, across from Noble Street, right there. He's like, we need to build one there. And I was like, man, we got this land, and if I'm lying, I'm flying. I was like, we got this land where the Pines is. We could build something like Boo Williams. And I said that a long time ago, like we could build this Boo Williams Center, man. We could really bring money in, do all before Virginia Beach got theirs, all that stuff. Like, man, we could do this kind of stuff. And it didn't really fall on people's ears. And one of the things that I don't like about Portsmouth doesn't have visionaries.
Oh, we just talked about that.
Yes.
Yeah, we got Portsmouth has people who want to do what's hot now or yesterday.
Yes.
Oh, we got to get people who are like, hey, this is what's going to be happening in 10 years.
Exactly.
Let's do that rather than to be like, let's deal with what's going on now. Because we end up wasting money and then get right back in the same problem down the road. Dog. And sometimes, and the citizens might not like hearing this, and sometimes you got to spend money to make things work.
Exactly.
We can't hold all of our coffers. Sometimes we got to be like, bam, but we got to put our money in the right places. James has always known, I've always been a proponent of us having wards in Portsmouth. I think Portsmouth is ripe for a ward system because we have people who live.
We used to be a ward system. I ran for the Democratic Committee in my ward.
Yep. And that's how we should. I think Portsmouth is right for that because we have too many people who live in gated communities who are not affected by the day-to-day operation of Portsmouth, who make the decisions for the day-to-day operation of Portsmouth. I'm not taking away from the fact that they've been successful in what they do, but when you live in that gated community and you don't see the crime, if you live in that gated community and you're not affected by a lot of the stuff that the decisions you're making are, your kids don't go to public schools. You can afford to send your kid to private school. Your kid's not affected by it. It's different. And when you have the person who was elected to represent Cavalier Manor, and they live in Cavalier Manor, and something ain't going right for Cavalier Manor, I know the people in Cavalier Manor will be like, hey, Mr. Smith, hey, dog, you told us this is going to happen. Why aren't our streets getting better? Why aren't, all of those things? And you're going to have that pressure. And I think it's different. I think Portsmouth is right for that.
Clea, it's amazing that you mentioned that because just before you came on, James and I, we were talking about all the visions that Portsmouth has had, all the consultants they paid to come in to bring about these visions. But the visions, they have the plans, but the visions never come to fruition. Never come to fruition, And so I look at you and I'm not a very good Facebooker. I post, but a lot of times, like people tell me about what people have. I don't do a lot of reading on Facebook, but as you say, people come to me and say, did you see Cletus post last week? You need to go and see that. You need to hear what he said, So there are a lot of people who may not show up on your page, who's listening to what you say. But the thing I like about you, Cletus, you seem to do your homework. That's what's important. You don't just look at the small issue. You look at the totality of the issue before you bring it to Facebook. And I appreciate you for that because you've changed my thinking about a number of things once the people have called me and said, go to Cletus' page and see what he put on his page this week, So, I just thank you for being, actually, I call you the conscious, you and James are the conscious of Portsmouth. James does it one way, you do it another way, but you all bring Portsmouth back to where it needs to be. You got to keep us awake so that we can see what's going on in the city. So I appreciate you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, going back to what Cletus said, I think that's how we met on Facebook talking, and we disagreed many times, but it was always a respectable disagreement because I remember I always said, I've been around a long time, but I'm still learning. And I had no idea that Sportsplex place was available. Only thing I knew at the time. And then it came to a point, all I wanted to do was make sure we had something on the south side to that was nothing there for those communities. And and we talked about a lot of issues, and a lot of things Cletus says, are based in fact, like you said, Leah, and people take it personal.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
It's not personal. It's not personal.
Things need to be said, and they'll close him out. And but anyway, but like you said, a lot of people listening. Cletus, how do you feel? What do you think? How do you feel the direction of Portsmouth is going now? What opportunities do we have to make sure that we get back on track? Because it seems like we are spinning our wheels. We just mentioned about all the different plans, and I was on the planning commission for 8 years and saw all different kind of plans and got excited when we had this plan. But each time the composition of the council changes. Mm-hmm. Each council at that time wanted to be the ones where we did this instead of, like you said, because most of those plans were like 10-year, 25-year plans.
Right.
And if you stuck to it, some of those plans back in the day in the 90s that I saw as a member of the planning commission, if we had stuck to it, you would have seen some of those things happening now. But each time it's probably a room in City Hall that on the front, the door says not obsolete plans, but here are the plans. And it's a room full of plans that we paid in some cases $200,000.
So,
so go ahead.
Oh no, I thought you were my fault. I didn't mean to cut you off at all. I think that we're at that point where we're at a precipice. So one thing that I learned, even in my personal life and my professional life, was the pandemic was a reset button for a lot of people.
It was.
It was a reset button. It gave you the opportunity to say, okay, that's happened. This is how we're gonna move forward. We've had over a year to really sit down and be like, okay, I can get my life together. I can now start this. I can do that. So many new businesses have birthed. A lot of things have happened, right? So the problem that we have, I think, with our city is exactly what you said. Every council wants to be better than the other council. Or the other council did this. We don't want to do that because that's them. We need to make our mark. Not realizing you're really not in there that long.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. For the only one that's been in there forever, and God blesses babies and fools is Moody. And I'll let y'all pick which one he is, but definitely I know there's an age limit on babies. But he's been in there for 4,000 years. So other than that, everybody kind of rotates in and out, So we get this whole mentality of I'm gonna tear everything down when I come in and make it my way. And then your way is not gonna be before a few years. When we start thinking about what's best for the city, it's a little bit different. So I really think that Portsmouth needs to take a real stern look at not Norfolk, not Virginia Beach.
Thank you.
Not any of the seven cities.
We can't compare Portsmouth to these other cities.
Yeah.
So in my travels, I've been like this. Go to Kennebunkport, Maine. Go to those small waterfront landlocked cities out there. See what they're doing to make it, because they more resemble Portsmouth rather than trying to be what Norfolk is, rather than trying to be, because we're not. The truth is we are a completely different jewel, and we have the ability, and we have to be able to get off of stuff. Look, if we can start being honest, nobody really comes. Old Town is not a tourist attraction. Nobody is waking up right now saying, you know what I want to do? I want to go see some of those houses in Portsmouth. Nobody is waking up and saying that. So if we can revitalize downtown Portsmouth, make it what it should be, make it really a waterfront community where we take advantage of the waterfront. I don't mind moving to jail. I don't mind moving it. Put it something. We need a jail because we still have crime.
Yes.
But we need to get our waterfront property and use that in a way that's going to be able to bring in money to our community. And it's not going to be Old Town. It's just not going to work. We haven't kept anything down there. We couldn't keep the sports museum, beautiful building.
Mm-hmm.
Now nothing.
Nothing.
It was not going to be a draw. The Virginia Sports Hall of Fame is not going to be a draw to people in Texas. It's just not. Nobody's coming to town to see that. It's a nice little caveat to have, but it's not something that's going to bring you revenue. So we got to start looking at things and putting together, like you say, a vision. What this is 2021.
Yeah.
We need to have a vision. We need to have a vision 2030.
Yes, and stick to it.
And that's where the people go. And it's going to be Noah building an ark kind of ish.
Uh-huh.
You're gonna be out there and people are gonna say, man, it ain't even raining. Why are you doing this? It's not raining. Why are you building a boat? I know what's coming.
Exactly.
And if we're there, then we're now top of the line, cutting edge. When we build our schools, put everything in our school, the stuff that's going to help for 20 years down the road, so that we don't have to come back in 5 and be like, we have a problem. We don't have the technology. We don't have this. Those are the things that we miss, even in our leadership. And that's what our leadership has to be. It's not about my idea is better than yours. It's not about young is better than old is better than young. I constantly hear them say the new council. I mean, we only got like 2 people on the council that are new. Everybody else has been, it's not a new council, the same council with a different shirt on. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a whole new person. So it's the stuff that we have to do. And it's little things. Portsmouth has been on the precipice of greatness for so long. It's something that needs to come in and push it over the top.
Yes.
And that's really going to come from leadership. One of the things that I think that James always says that is amazing is that we have informed voters. No lie, I've talked to some people who run campaigns, and they say the key to winning Portsmouth is putting together the right sample ballot. Because people just vote by the sample ballot. They don't go and research. They get there, you give them a sample ballot. They're like, oh, okay, just put all these names. Cool. Yeah. And that's how it is. We don't have informed voters.
That's true.
So if you got an informed voter, you know, yo, this person has never been this, or this person has never been that. No one can be mad at Councilman Whitaker. You know who he is. He has been him forever. Like it or not, he is who he is. So you make an informed decision about putting him in and know this is what you're going to get when you put him in there.
Don't be surprised.
Don't be surprised. Why were people surprised when Roe didn't want to give money to schools? He's been trying to, when he was city manager, he tried to cut the money for the schools.
That's right.
It's the same guy. The same guy. That's why informed decisions, and that's all you can ask, is that we have informed decisions. And when we make informed decisions, and when Portsmouth stops voting on popularity,
thank you.
It'll be a lot better. Stop putting people in because everybody like them.
It's kind of funny when you might have new council people and they try to walk back some things that another council had did, but when that other council was doing it, where were they as a citizen speaking up against that? I look back and say, well, were you speaking up against that?
No.
When the other was doing it? No. But now that you're on council, you think it's a bad idea because you can, and now you want to walk back all this stuff that has been already decided. And one of them with the casino, like it or not, the people overwhelmingly said we want it.
This is what they want to do. And so, it's kind of an inmates running the asylum, but the people want it. So now your job is to provide it in the best way for the people. Now that's your job on council. It's not necessarily you doing what you want to do, but it's now providing the best example for what of that's happening for the council. I say the same thing that you say, James. It's a pet peeve of mine when people are on council and they decide to run for mayor and they say, I'm gonna put all this stuff into place. Well, you ain't say none of that while you was on council. So you telling me you sitting on council with great ideas and not giving them to help the city simply because you're not the mayor? It doesn't make sense to me. Make those strides. Because here's what I firmly believe. If you're sitting on council, if you're sitting on school board, whatever political, if you're on a board and commission, if you are coming to the table with these great ideas, the people will see those and they'll say stuff like, this is somebody that needs to be our mayor. This is somebody that needs to be this is the third, because you've already provided it. Your best campaign is your work on the board.
Exactly.
And so when you don't do the work on the board, when we don't see you doing anything on the board, then it's like, well, what, why? You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know what?
It's interesting.
There's a tendency for those on the board or anybody in leadership to not make a mistake. And don't let something go wrong on my watch. And then so and Slim is right talking about the that room where all these great plans are at, that lie in state in the mausoleum. And I've always said, if one of your council member or somebody in leadership in any business or military or whatever saying, well, we want to study it, or we want to put a commission at it, that means they don't want to do it.
It's
They
dead.
just want to
It's
put
dead
it
on arrival.
Yes, they just want to put it off and keep going. And
Yes.
that's why we have to hold these folks accountable. And Cletus, you're correct. For those folks that now I'm going to do all this when I get to be mayor, and you didn't say anything when I was on the council or when I'm out here in the street as a private citizen, that means you're not the one I should be looking at.
Because you're
Should
doing
not
it
be
for
looking
you.
at.
You're
Yes.
doing it for you. You're doing it so that people can say, look at what he did.
Exactly.
You're not
Oh
doing
no,
it so
what
you
he
can say,
not what he did is look like he's proposing because he has he's never going to get it done, but it sounds good.
sounds great. Tickle them ears.
Yeah, tickle him.
I'm looking
Let
now.
me fool
I'm
people.
looking at the post that Cletus should run for council. I've said that before, but I know what you say. You get more done behind the scenes than you get done if you were on council.
And that's for me. So,
Yes.
and it's twofold. People have asked me to run for council. They've asked me for a school board. And it's twofold. I'm always very serious about anything that I do. Once I get in it, I want to give 1,000% to it. If I'm coaching Little League, I'm coaching them like we the pros. Like I'm really into it. So now the way that my career is kind of the trajectory of my career is going on, I don't want to be the council member or the school board member that can only come to one meeting every other month or any of those things, who can't really give what needs to be given.
Who don't research before coming to the council meeting.
Listen. Some of the stuff I watch on the council meeting, I'm like, y'all ain't read, y'all don't have a baseline. Common sense is not like you. There's a baseline knowledge you should have.
Yes.
Of some stuff. I've seen some stuff on. I'm just like, and when we talked about the casino, that was a perfect example. When the man came in, he was like, the answers are in this information we provided you months ago. Why are we now going over this again? And the man looked frustrated. He was like, dog, we've answered these questions. So that's just a bad thing. But I do think that people outside of the red tape of council have an opportunity to work in a different way. And you can put some things in without having to say, I got to go here. I got to get the approval of 3 other people. So like, if I want to do something, when we feed the homeless, we can just feed the homeless. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got to go and be like, well, state guidelines say that we have to meet this, and then let's vote on it, and then let's come up with a day. Oh no, this day isn't good for me. It's a bad photo op day for me. I won't have my hair cut that day, so we need to do this. I can just be like, yo, we need to go feed the homeless. Let's go feed the homeless. So it's a little bit different. I don't think that everybody should go rogue. I still think there needs to be oversight. There needs to be a covering. But yeah, but I ain't running for nothing, man. Even though I was a PE major, man, me and running don't work. James has worked out with me, man. A walk is about as much I'm giving you.
We had some good walks before the pandemic, but
you need to join the Greyhound Walk. We'll help you with that. Come next Saturday.
Don't
not Greyhound. Oh my God.
Come on, you can join us. You emceed our program. You emceed one of my, so if
because you're so nice, I put it to the side. I've done a lot of stuff. My mom was a 1970 graduate of Norcom. My dad was 1968.
See?
Everybody in my family just about went to Norcom.
Your mom was 1970?
My mom was 1970. My dad was 68.
Oh, she was there when I was there. Okay, all right.
Yeah. She was probably going to class.
Oh, you saying James wasn't?
You were one of the cool kids.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check out the yearbook.
Go to your yearbook.
Yep, George coming. Matter of fact, I think I got some of those Norcom yearbooks in here. It's crazy.
1970, I was on the JV team. You'll see a great picture of me in there. I weigh about 100 pounds.
So the same way you are right now.
Yeah,
I'll go and check.
Pretty close. I have two questions for you before we run out of time, and one of them is, you still remain here or reside here in the city of Portsmouth, but you travel all over the country, and a lot of comedians end up relocating in Los Angeles or Atlanta now. In order to be closer to the comic scene or show business, because you are also an actor.
Right.
You are pretty good at that too. And you can answer that why you stay here in Portsmouth, and you can answer that. And how do you feel about Wilson name going back to Manor? You've been a staunch Wilson guy.
I am.
And, I see. What did you call it? I see now. I see nothing.
Yeah, I see that.
And Michelle just said we will make you an honorary Greyhound, so take that back. Michelle Smith says we will make you an honorary Greyhound. Take it
You
back.
just spending way too much time with them chickens.
Yeah.
So my main reason, and honestly, my main reason, well, it was two. My main reasons for staying with family base, my mom and my kids. So I never wanted to be the guy, just the way that I father, and I don't take it away from other people or how they do it. The way that I father, I never wanted to be the only see them once every 3 months, or they only see their dad for summers or whatever. I didn't want to be that guy. I wanted to make sure that I was involved. I didn't have that in my life. My father wasn't around. And so I purposely was like, this is the decision that I made. And my mom was the other. I wanted to make sure I was there for my mom. And so my mom passed 2 years ago, and I really can look back. Like, yesterday was really a reflective day. For me, Mother's Day is it hits differently when you no longer have your mother. And so, but I was able to reflect and be like, I spent so much time with my mom. I did so much stuff. I was able to take her to do a lot of different things. There are things that resonate with me. Voting is always a big thing because I took my mom to the poll, the vote all the time. So that was a big thing for me. So I chose to stay here, and I just put my faith in, like, God, if I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna make it from here. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna make it this way. And if I don't make it, quote unquote, make it nationally and become a huge name, if I become a huge name to my kids, then that's good enough for me.
Yes.
So that's why I'm still here. I still get to travel and go to all those places. And really, the way that the world is opening up now with the internet and things like that, it don't matter where you're from. You can get it. You can get notice from anywhere. As far as the school situation, at the end of the day, it's a name. You can't take away the memories I had in my school. You can't take away, what we were, the pride that we had in being presidents, Prexis, whatever. Even when I was there as a Mustang, you can't take that away. I understand the sensitivity of the naming of the school, and so I'm okay with it. I'm actually very okay with it. I'm not that selfish and me oriented that I want my school because my school. Dog, at the end of the day, it's really not my school. Once you graduate the school, somebody else's. It's done. What we are proud of is the classes that we have, the values that the school instilled in us, all of those things. And that's one thing I always give Norcom. Y'all, I think Norcom really believes they're HBCU, but I can't take away from the fact that you never forget y'all alma mater. Y'all guys never forget alma mater. You guys really, rally around you. Y'all have these grand reunions and things of that nature, and people show up. That's something that I can't take away from it. So for me, I'm all in. Now, I don't like the planning of it. I think at this time, knowing that because of the Panini Press, that we gonna have a cut in money. There's gonna be less money next year for all schools throughout the state. Everybody's getting less money. For us to spend $500,000 on something that could be done again incrementally over a number of years, I think that's best. There was no reason for us to say we have to do it immediately, because honestly, the kids don't care. Like this generation of kids are way different. They way different than your generation was. And I take this and I give y'all so much credit. Norcom High School now has ropes around the heart of the school,
which we never had before.
Y'all never had to have that.
Never had to have that.
That was just the rule. Nobody walked on the heart. You ain't come close to it.
That's right.
Don't worry about it. Now you got to put ropes up, because these kids is like, man, I'm walking over. I don't care. They haven't gone to see who Israel Charles Norcom is. They haven't gone to see who Anna Barbara is. They haven't gone. They don't know that all the streets in Capital Manor are named after great blacks. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't know that. It's just streets. You know what I'm saying? So somewhere we lost that connection. But I do think we could have done it incrementally and got it done over a period of time where the money wouldn't have been so substantial at once, and we could have been able to funnel it into some other programs, even if we did fundraising. I was like, listen, if y'all want Manor, y'all wanted that bad, man, let's raise the money to get the new jerseys for the kids. Y'all wanted to be Manor that bad. Because you had to do everything.
Everything has to change.
People didn't realize how much stuff had to change. The floors, the bleachers. If you've been in there, we had school colored bleachers with a W. You know what I'm saying? So you got to get new bleachers. You got to get every team, from golf, the football, the track, home and away jerseys. You got to change the stadium. That's just a lot of money once you start the high school level.
Once again, that comes to looking at the entire package as opposed to a
Yes.
piece of the package.
And it was reactionary.
Right.
That decision was reactionary. That decision was 100% seeing other people do it, so we need to do it too.
Right.
My suggestion to the school board was the name of Barack Obama High School, and I tell you why. Because I always say, look, let's work smarter, not harder. If we named that school Barack Obama High School, we would have been the first Barack Obama High School in the country. The positive press that Portsmouth would have got behind that, and I guarantee you, Nike, Reebok, Adidas, somebody would have wanted to be the team, be the company that sponsored the jerseys for the first Barack Obama High School. A lot of the stuff we could have got for free. Now, were we using Barack Obama per se? Absolutely. But it's a great honor, and it shows our kids, our demographic. Socioeconomically, we have more kids going to school that look like Barack Obama and look like Woodrow Wilson.
Exactly.
So I think there's that kind of pride too. I think that would have been a great step. They didn't take that though.
Well, maybe as they keep listening, they'll take in some of the things that you say. But just like a lot of our programs, this could go on all day, especially with you. And we really appreciate you coming in. And
I appreciate coming in. I put on pants for this, so y'all are a big deal.
okay, so
We don't have to worry about you standing up, right?
I can stand up. Freedom. There's freedom in this show.
okay, we'll take your word for that. We
James,
don't want to stand up.
James is a comedian now.
James is hilarious. I don't care what anybody says, man. James is hilarious. And if he don't get you with the first one, he'll keep trying.
Oh, he will. His dogs are a hit.
But anyway, any of the other hosts, do y'all have any last questions for Cletus before we kind of sign off here?
I just want to say, Cletus, I thank you so very much. And I do appreciate all that you're doing in the community. And Michelle Smith tells me she's going to give you some eggs. So, but I just want to thank you once again for all that you continue to do in the community and keep us awake. Keep us realizing some of those things that we need to do. And we do appreciate your voice in the community.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's good to be appreciated.
Yes. I also like to echo that, Cletus. One, it shows the depth of your commitment to the community and what you do. And so thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, please, before we go, you're also CEO and founder of At Smile for Me Entertainment.
Smile for Me Entertainment. Yep, that's the broader scope of my entertainment as far as my comedy and stuff. I just started Chuckle Productions, which is my my like podcast and the work I do for other people. So that's Chuckle, and I have a actual a business, Just Blink Productions, where we come in and we got some exciting stuff that's coming, man. We've done some television shows for some people that's going to be on Sky 4. We're doing a lot of videos. We do photography, all kinds of stuff. Myself and Esau Bolden is his name. So
it's Just Blink.
Just Blink, one Blink. Just Blink Productions.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, keep on the lookout for it. Again, that was part of the reset due to the panorama.
Well, again, thank you so much. Any stand-up dates?
So I'm really starting to get back into traveling. So the world is starting to open up again, man. So that's cool. So I'll start having some dates here locally. Like everything I got right now is Maryland, Chicago. I'm getting ready to hit the road a little bit, but people can always find me on all my social media platforms is at Cletus Comedy. So that's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Plenty of Fish, Farmers Only, all of those.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I gotta get out there, man. I ain't got no wife, so we push
all
it.
over the place.
Yeah, we push it.
And what people didn't know, you used to work for Michael Massey law firm. So
I did. That's my guy, Big Mike. He's still doing an amazing job, man. That was 15 years of criminal defense and personal injury. So Mike's doing an amazing job in the community, man. He's doing a lot of work, and he does a lot of stuff behind the scenes too that people don't know.
Right.
That he does. He's a very benevolent person, man. So him and Don Scott are in the same office. So between the two of them, nobody else gets to talk.
Yeah, I hate to be in the middle of them. Yeah.
That's for sure. And James,
okay,
And before we go, James, I want to mention once again, the Greyhound Walk Around for Scholars starts at 11 a.m. on next Saturday. You can register between 9 and 10 a.m. For more information, you may reach Samara, S-A-M-A-R-A, Greyhound 1991 at gmail.com. That's Samara, S-A-M-A-R-A, Greyhound 1991 at gmail.com. Come out and join us for a healthy walk and a time that we can come together as Greyhounds and celebrate and love on each other. After this panorama, as you call it.
Yeah, this panorama is over.
Yeah, and Cletus will be there, and also he's
Not gonna be there.
You better be there.
I'm trying to find something to do right now.
He's also available to open up for any badminton tournaments that you might be having in your backyard. So
listen, cut the check. If the check is there, I'm there.
Yeah, just cut that check for him, and he'll be there and open up your badminton backyard. That intense game. You need somebody to sort of lighten up the audience. So keep them in mind for all those badminton tournaments.
Horseshoe tournaments, when your uncles get together, man, want to throw horseshoes, I'm there.
Yeah, because that can get intense too.
Stage games, whatever you need.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Thank y'all so much for having me on, man.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah, right.
Your time and everything you had to say today. And hopefully we can have you back again.
Man, you know me, man. Y'all the only reason I get up in the morning early. So
okay, thanks. At least on Monday mornings.
on any.
Okay.
Listen, James, maybe the next year we have them do a complete comedy routine. How about that?
I don't think y'all budget.
You don't think we can handle it? We got deep pockets. Okay, that's why we're asking every week for contributions.
Remunerations is what we're asking.
That's right,
for.
Remunerations.
That's right.
But thanks
so much.
We appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. God bless.
And Portsmouth Coffee Talk is here for our voice,
our community,
and our future.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
We'll see you next week.
Okay.